welcome to my YouTube channel and Younger Corporate Series. And on this episode, I have another of my friend. I thought you guys have amazing professionals as friends. And I have Tomiwa here with me. Tomiwa is a software engineer with one of the biggest tech companies that you know. You use their software. I told you I bragged about it already. But then I have him live and direct here. And I'm actually touching him again. He's one of the super beings that I have met, one of the biggest super beings that I have met. Smart, intelligent, on the top of it all. And trust me, he's right here. He's really human. So hi Tomiwa.
Hello, Lola.
How have you been?
Why the hustle?
If everybody's talking about hustle, you don't have to say anything.
You'll be surprised at how much hustle we do. But yeah.
So thank you for coming on my show today. And yes, I'm in Tomiwa's house. So Tomiwa, you're a software engineer.
Mhm.
Looking through your profile or reading through your profile, I can see that you have worked with some of the biggest companies that I know of. And this channel is actually channeled or geared towards young professionals that are confused, don't know what path to go, are stuck at some point in their career. So I'm just going to ask, how do you keep it going? Can you just run us through your journey? How did you make that decision to even become a software engineer, and how are you still on it right now?
That's a good question. I've always been asking myself, what would I do if I was not doing software engineering?
You still us.
I swear, I do not know the answer to that question. I think that me being in software engineering is providence. I think that I didn't do much to get into it, right? I did
Okay.
not. When we were doing my journey started when I was 9. I stumbled into programming at that time.
Wow.
Um, then you get accelerated through secondary school at the
Yeah.
point where I joined the computer jets club then from GS1, and there were many of my seniors then in SS1 who were doing it,
What
and it was
secondary
all
school was
about
this?
programming then. The Gomode Grammar School
Oh wow.
in Ogun State. So it was my introduction to programming like properly at that time. I didn't know what I was doing half the time, but I think that the excitement at that time made me choose computer science in the Federal University of Technology,
Oh,
Akure.
you.
So to choose computer science, when you finish school, you have to do JAMB and you have to decide which school you're going to go to and what course you're going to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to become. I think when I was a kid, I wanted to become Superman, or I probably wanted to become
Did it
an
feel?
astronaut. One of those like wild dreams that was impossible back in Nigeria. I mean, Superman has been impossible everywhere. But my people said, choose a university that you'll be in the catchment area. So I come from Ondo State, and Futa is in Ondo State, so I have a strong chance of getting it. Now you go to the brochure. The brochure used to be like this booklet they give you that contains a list of universities
Mhm.
and the courses that they offer. So I went through this book and then I saw Ondo State, Federal University of Technology, and here are the courses. Computer science. It looks like maybe we'll be playing games inside there. I used to like playing games then, so
Computer games.
I chose it. And then when I got into 100 level, they did not. I think we had only one computer course. Every other thing was mathematics,
Oh my
English,
god.
biology, chemistry. I don't know, so many non-computer science things. I was wondering then, but we had one course then, which I think was a bit of programming. But as we moved further through the different semesters, it became more intense.
Mhm.
And that was when we got to the algorithms course, we got to the operating systems course, the DB course, and it started to make sense from there. I'll pause here just to see if you have any questions or comments.
Yeah, sort of. So, you started at 9, right? And you just kept going. Just a quick question. Did you get any form of support from your parents, or were there times where they just felt, what are you even doing? Or were there times where they're like, oh, yes, you have to keep going? Did they even understand what you were doing at that time or what your interest was? So, what sort of support? Where did you get the support from? Where did you get the drive? Or was it just personal? Was it just something that you just kept doing yourself?
Well, I'll be lying if I did not say I got support. Um, most of us software engineers, we have this concept where we say we ride on the shoulders of giants, which literally means that whatever we think we are today is because of the people who have gone before us.
True.
So, for example, I remember Mr. Said. He used to work on payroll in my mom's office. He was one of the people who used to inspire me to do things then. So I remember like when I was learning all this, all these computer terms, and I compiled them into like some like write up that's so I could remember many of them.
Yeah.
And he was the one that encouraged me to like go through them and bundle them into a book then. Well, it was a book, a handwritten book. But and he also like used to help me get like when I got into university, he was the first person I could call to say, hey, I need a computer. Or when I come back from vacation,
Yeah.
I either borrow his computer or he's the one that I go to his office to actually try out things.
Wow.
So I think that was a very, very influential person in who I became, who I am today. Another person I'll call out to be my mathematics teacher in secondary school, Mr. Agbaola. So Mr. Agbaola he drummed into your ears the fact that mathematics is understandable, and computer science has a lot of math concept inside it, not just software engineering, but computer science as a whole. So from that like attitude of like here's a concept, you can actually go through it step by step, understand it, reproduce it, and you get it. When you get into more complex things like linear algebra, um, or even the newest wave of machine learning concepts that is going on, you can actually grasp it because it's a bunch of concepts coming up together to make bigger concepts, and over time it becomes something you can understand.
So you literally got the support from external or from people that from the most impossible places. And I think that actually makes a lot of sense because a lot of young professionals expect that family, friends are supposed to be the ones to just give all of that support. But truth is, relating it to your story just shows that you can actually get support from anybody, anything, especially if your mind is like set on what you're doing. Yeah. So you had your mind set on, or
Oh, just
you
to be clear, I did not have my mindset. I was confused. I was playing throughout all that time. So to be fair, I've never been serious. Right? I think the time when I started to get serious was G Nigeria. Is it Google Nigeria, G Days Nigeria 2010? I don't know what. Is that G Days Nigeria 2010 or Google Days Nigeria 2010 or G Nigeria 2010? My friends invited me for this conference in Lagos. It was organized by Google. They came around, brought like two software engineers. They told us that if we pass, like they were trying to tell us about this Google Code Jam that was happening.
yeah.
Then they had a smaller version called Code Jam Africa, and I think they were trying to get us into it. Um, and then they also had like two software engineers who one of them worked on Macs, one of them worked on Android, and they came around. They told us it was possible to get internships, and they told us that at Google it was possible to make like 90K a year.
That's
Now
90K what?
$90,000 a year.
Oh wow. Okay.
So in my mind,
At what point was this? Was this when you had
300 level,
300 level? Okay.
300 level, third year of school. So at this point, I mean, in Nigeria, we do not have, okay, back then, we do not know exactly what we are going to do. We just know we're in school. But then this guy just gave me a map, like, it's possible. Then how do you get it? Do internship. Do internship. How do you get internship? Pass Google Code Jam. So what do you need to pass Google Code Jam? You need a programming language. I need to do some algorithm things and beat everybody at it. So that night I started to like, so the competition I think was happening 1 week from there. So I think 2 days to time I got my laptop and then downloaded Python and started reading all the docs and trying everything so I can actually understand Python properly and use it competitively. So I think I was up for like 48 hours nonstop. I kept going and going and going. At the end of that 48 hours, I think at the final end, somebody stole my laptop. I forgot. I forgot to close the door.
Oh my
And they stole my
god.
laptop.
Was this in uni?
That was in uni.
Oh my god.
So I think I borrowed a friend's laptop, and that was what I think I used for the competition. And guess what? I still failed. I could not solve one question. I went back to look at those questions. They actually, I could have done them. I went back to look at them, but no,
Was it recently that you went back to look at
no,
them?
like a couple of years back, maybe like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I went back to it. I could do it then, but at the time, I didn't know jack squat.
Oh.
Anyway, so I at that time I started applying to Google. You get the unfortunately, right?
Mm.
So internship, you get your unfortunately studies, like, because quite frankly my resume was shit. My resume wasn't good. To be fair, I didn't have experience. My programming skills was not software engineering grade.
Mm.
But but the next thing that happened to me then was I kept learning and trying to read
Get
and
better.
learn more things. And if anybody has any programming opportunity here, I'll jump on it. I don't know what I'm doing, but just jump on it. And then I think at some point in 500 level, second semester, a bunch some guys from some guys reached out to the school. They were trying to find like top programmers who were around. They wanted to employ them. So me and like six of my friends got chosen,
Wow.
and then we went to work for this company. We did quite some really really interesting things there for the time. It's one of my proud moments. We did like a lot of interesting things there. That took me into my at the end. So immediately after this program, it's when we got hired. I was in school then, so it was like I was working weekends and then I was going to study during the week. Afterwards, after school, the next thing is National Youth Service. So as National Youth Service, I had two choices. One, go to Lagos. I was posted to Lagos, or so for some reason I redeployed to Akure, and I was working. I was serving in Akure. As part of the service, I also got to work with these guys, and it was a good experience. After working for these guys, I had to go back to Lagos. I live in Lagos. My mom lives in Lagos, and my life is in Lagos. I had to make a choice. What are you going to do next? Now, we don't know what we're going to do next, but I know that that 90K is in my future. And I know that if I apply for them right now, they're going to tell me no. So I had a simple plan. What can you do to work at Google? I broke it down into 3 steps. Step one, work for a small but very fast growing company where they
Mhm.
give you a lot of responsibilities. Second step, work for a medium sized company that has national relevance, that's growing also very fast, and they still give you a lot of responsibility.
Mm.
And third stage, work for an international company that gives you a lot of responsibility. But the growing fast was not as important because it's already international. You don't expect that much growth from a company like that. So my first company, I went to Co-Creation Hub. I met up with Femi, and I also met up with Emotu. They said they were looking for someone to join as a Python developer. So by then, my Python wasn't great, but I've tried it out a few times. I've used it for competition. So I just like, hey, I mean, you
I
don't
could
lose it.
try.
You just try.
I could try.
So I went to meet the founder of this company, and he started grilling me, and it was like, I think you can do it.
Hmm.
And then I got the job. My first day at the job, I wasn't great at all, but he was a great mentor.
Hmm.
He had like one of the more complicated examples of Flask. Flask is a framework for web development or API development in Python.
Hmm.
And his setup back then, this was in 2013, 2014, 2014, was quite robust. It was similar to what you find in the 12 factor app. Okay, now I think I'm talking too much software nonsense. Anyways, he got me up. I got the role as the primary software engineer on the team. So I had the co-founder who was an engineer. I had another co-founder who was a designer,
Hmm.
and I had the third co-founder who was a business development guy. And then there was me. Really small team, really fast. We built an amazing platform.
Must have had lots of responsibilities at that time.
I mean,
And
you
then
are the
there was
primary
the
person.
support.
You are the primary person.
And then there was the support. It makes a lot of sense. It looks like you actually did plan it out. And it's so mind blowing that $90,000 could motivate you this much.
I was making 25,000 naira per month.
But that's actually very funny. So there's a part where you said that while you were trying to prepare for the competition, that was the point where you started to get serious with development, and then you had to take up responsibility for your own learning. And I could tell from everything that you have said that at the different times in from when you got that role after uni and during uni when the company came and wanted some people and up until this point, not now, I mean that point where you worked at the startup, there was a lot of self development.
self-development plus community. You cannot
Hmm.
underestimate the impact of community.
Wow.
So community is the set of people who are all learning the same thing together or sharing information together about something. For me, the most useful community for me at that time was the Google developer community. So
Hmm.
back then in school, I started a Google developer group with people,
GDG.
GDG. It was called GTUGs then. So I started one with my best friend, and then I knew a little bit of stuff. I teach everybody. Google comes up with some materials, you share, everybody tries it out together. We were trying App Engine, we were trying maps, we were tried a lot of things out. It was fun. But when we go back, all the people that we were doing things together then, where everybody's doing pretty good for themselves. And
Hmm.
they've been really good, they've been doing very well for themselves for many years now.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I would say like everyone should get plugged into communities, like as much as possible. Don't do it alone.
I was actually a part of a Google Women Technical group,
Oh, really?
and I'm still in that WhatsApp group, but yeah, I've just kind of disconnected because I think I went further away from software development and
Mhm.
all of those serious tech bits. So I'm more in the HR now. But yes, but I know all the
Oh wait,
work that
she
goes
should not
into
brush
that.
that aside. I know everybody thinks that software engineering is the shit. There is a lot of non-software engineering careers that is in tech.
True,
Actually, I'm
true,
trying to start a series to actually talk about all these other aspects and how to get into it and succeed in it.
true.
But software engineering is not the only one. There are a lot
Yeah, I
of
know the data
options.
analysis,
Well, there's the
automation,
technology technical version of things and there's a non-technical version
operation
of things.
version.
I want to focus on exposing the non-technical version of things
Mm.
so people have at least a good way to get it in the shortest way possible. It's not easy, it's very competitive, but there are options.
I know.
We'll continue, please.
Well, so Tomiwa is kind of exposing the fact that there are other parts of tech that you could actually plug into, and he's gonna obviously start a series someday.
Or she might start it.
So I'm gonna start that series. I'm gonna be on his neck, and so if you need to follow Tomiwa, please do. Anyway, find him, however you can. So Tomiwa, so I understand. Okay, so you've actually pointed out that there was the self development, personal development, and then there was the
Community.
community. I'd like you to share your knowledge on what or the impact of mentorship in your career. Uh, I remember that you said one of the co-founders of the startup was like a great mentor, but I'd like to know the impact that had in your career or that has had in your career, and if you've had other mentors, how was that relationship? How did you manage that relationship, mentor mentee relationship with your mentor?
Okay, so beyond, there are few human relationships that have helped me, especially as I started to accelerate in my career. I think there are two roles to call out. The first one is the role of mentors and the role of sponsors.
Hmm.
So a sponsor is a person who they bet their reputation on putting your name in a place that you otherwise would not have gotten into.
Wow.
And a mentor is someone that you talk to around like problems or things that you're going through. The person is not a coach, although they could play some coaching roles, but their role is not to solve your problem. Their role is to help you get your problem solved through you or give you what you need to solve the problem. Sort of kind. Now, sponsors are very important. Don't underestimate them. They are sponsors at work, they are sponsors out of work. So as you move upward in your career, sponsors become very important and you have to nurture your relationships you have with them. And a lot of people look at relationships as one-sided, like a mentor is helping a mentee. It's a two-way relationship, right? So a mentor helps the mentee helps the mentor. So you need to figure out what the exchange is. Once you figure it out, then the relationship becomes organic and authentic. The mentor reaches out to you for something they want. The mentee reaches out to the mentor for something they want. The same thing works for sponsorship too.
So I'll be my sponsor.
Now, the way you said that,
Come and sponsor me.
no, that is not what I mean by
Oh
sponsor.
my god, that whole sponsorship thing. I never knew there was a term for it, but it's quite mind blowing.
Yeah, it is. Like if
Have
you
you
want to,
sponsored anyone before?
the more you grow, the more you have to. It's a two-way relationship, right?
True,
What's
true.
given onto you, you have to give to somebody else. Oh yes, I have sponsored people in the past. It's an active thing I have to do. I keep doing.
Wow. Okay, so my next question would be, so at this point, I know that you're like an expert. Like you're there. Yeah, Tomiwa, you're there.
I'm not there.
Tomiwa, calm down, you're there. Guys, Tomiwa is there. But Tomiwa, I really want to know if you are still upskilling or if there's still that learning process going on in your career, knowing that you have how many years of experience?
Uh, I don't know, 10, 13. I can't count.
Tomiwa is young. I don't know how he has 13 years experience. And guys, this is young and corporate series. I don't trust me.
So I
I'm
have 2 years
not bringing
experience. 2 years
it's
experience.
like I'm not bringing old people or people that that they've had to go through like centuries or decades of work to get to where they're at. I'm bringing my friends, like same age group, that have actually in a short period of time achieved like those feats that could have taken a lot of people more years to get to. And so I'm trying to expose the secrets behind that speed. I'm trying to expose their understanding, just share with you. So just to help you also thrive in your career. So that's why I'm asking that question.
Am I upskilling myself?
Yes, are you still like, do you still have to do, because I remember that you said when you started, you had to do a lot of personal development and you had to join community, you had to start the community, and you had to keep upskilling. But
Mhm.
right now, knowing that you sort of are like in the expert level with some of these programming languages, so what exactly are you upskilling on? What are you learning currently? What's
So
what are your challenges currently?
software engineering or tech in general, unfortunately, if you think you're an expert, the moment you think you're an expert, that's the time when you stop being an expert.
Hmm.
Why? Technology changes very, very, very fast.
Wow.
So what you know today is not going to be relevant in 3 to 4 years,
Hmm.
right? But I think for me, well, one, I always need to stay up to date with technology. So that's just technology things that are happening. Then you have to stay up to date with what's happening in the academia because they produce the things you're going to use in the next 2 to 5 years. So you have to stay up to date with what's happening there. So this means one, I have to keep up to date with what's happening at technology conferences. So I try to attend some of them, but if I can't attend, I watch it online, read the summary, all that stuff. You do that. Then you have technology that I really care about. So in that case, I get a bit more detailed into it. Sometimes I try out code samples, try them out myself to make sure I understand what's going on. Then beyond that, you also read papers. So papers are things where like companies release condensed knowledge into a short like 10, 12 pages document.
I remember you said something about that some time ago.
Yeah. So papers show you problems that you would not otherwise experience in a small company. So for example, Google is a very big company. They have Colossus, they have Google Bigtable, they have MapReduce. They had a lot of papers they published over the years. If you're working for a small company, the chances that you get into those type of problems is low. But knowing that those tools exist and how they came around, because papers teach you how they come around the theory to create something practical.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you prepare the company you're in for scale. There are many companies right now who have built things. They're really successful, but success becomes to hinder them because they've gotten to the peak of what the technology stack they have
Mm.
can hold. To break past that point, you can either do the research yourself or go and borrow research
Right research.
that's happening everywhere and reproduce it yourself. Now, in tech, I'm a software engineer. I need to know things, and the way it works is I don't have a manager that tells me, "Hey, Tomiwa, here's what you're going to do today." Nobody tells me what to do, but he's going to ask me a couple of months later, "What have you done?"
Mm.
And that "what have you done" must be something that is commensurate to the expectations they're having of you.
Yeah.
And how can you figure that out? Stay up to date with what's happening, figure out what the problems you're currently having
Mm.
internally and the
Mm-hmm.
next generation of problems you're going to have, and come up with something work with people to figure out what the solution is and either work to solve the solution or plan what the solution is going to be like before it happens.
Wow. So the world just keeps evolving and everybody just has to keep learning and upskilling and just gaining more knowledge. And I would have thought that software engineers just it just becomes very monotonous. I just do the same thing over and over and over and over. Or developing new projects or working on new projects, but you just painted it in a different light. So what is the most interesting part of your job as a software engineer?
The most exciting part is the fact that what you're working on, you can see it in people's lives.
Hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah. True. And what would you say is the most challenging part?
Of my career.
Yeah, career. At this point, I would
Well,
like you to just like sum it all up from the beginning up until now. If you could just point out the most challenging part. It could be at the early years. It could be
I,
recent.
I think the most difficulty I've faced in my career is managing
Managing.
upwards.
Oh, okay.
That's the most difficult thing I've ever like. It's the
Ah,
hardest, and that's just because of my personality, right? So I'm a quiet, introverted, and I drive energy inwards, and to manage up, you have to drive energy outwards. So that's something that conflicts a lot with my personality. I've been fortunate to have like some really good skips and higher ups who have made my life easier. But it's something that if I was a natural at, my life would be a lot more, my life would be a lot richer than it currently is.
you. Thank you. Thank you. I know that you have gone through, like I said, Tomiwa has worked with some of the biggest companies that you've known of, and we're going to just keep that private. However, you had to go through all of those interviews.
Oh, I love interviews now.
You love interviews.
Yeah.
Well, because you are there now,
Oh,
you're a boss
no, no,
now.
no, no, no,
But
no, no,
before
no,
you
no.
acquired all of these skills, what's that one thing that you learned about interviews that has helped you, even that you've gathered? Can you just share all of your interview knowledge, all the ones that you've gathered over time that has helped you become the comfortable person that you are now?
So let's see. Interviewing. I'm
Hmm.
a software engineer, right? So like
Yep.
engineering interviews are quite, they become quite, what's the word? They're hackable in some way. But if you want to get past the hacking and cramming and you want to be able to like genuinely like bring your best foot to every interview, um, well, it starts before the interview process, right? It starts by getting visibility, making sure that at least your foot is in the table,
Yeah.
is in your foot is in the door. So, which means like, how do you get a recruiter? Hopefully, it's a recruiter to notice
Yeah.
your resume. Now, for software engineering, it's one field. For non-tech, it's a bit different, but let's focus on software engineering, right? Okay. So, one is you need to have experience. Okay. It turns out if you're just starting, junior software engineers, there's a lot less roles for you. I don't know why, but many companies tend not to hire junior engineers. I haven't figured out why yet. But to get past that problem, you have to have experience before you get before you get a job, which doesn't make sense. But what you need to do is basically, and how do you get experience before you have a job? So you could do a side project. The more real the side project is, the much more credible it looks like.
Mm.
So, for example, if you did just one bootcamp project, that scores as one. If you did one bootcamp project at a hackathon that got published, it scores higher. If you did like you've contributed like some projects, made it open source, wrote a video about it, that scores much higher. You wrote a project with a bunch of friends, it showed some collaboration together and published it or pitched it as a startup and probably failed or succeeded, doesn't matter. That scores higher. So the more like the
Mhm.
more it's the more topics you cover, the richer it looks like on your profile.
I'm not a software engineer, but you said something about publishing. Where do you publish?
For software engineers, it's quite easy to publish. You publish your code on one of the open source source controlled
Oh, okay.
tools, and then you can host your website on if it's a website or if it's an app hosted on the stores. If it's a website, host it on like one of the providers that work directly. Like you could do that. Um, that works. The second thing to do is around timing. So you need to do something that is consistent over time.
Mhm.
If you're in school, get an internship. Like do all you can to get an internship. A person with an internship scores higher than a person who has experience or no, who has the knowledge but no experience.
Mm.
I mean, if they can prove they have the knowledge, but that's after their foot is in the door.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
get experience. So either hack your experience or get internship. Once your feet is in the door somewhere, then it's now you need to now show yourself. So showing yourself literally means figure out know the job you're looking for and know it. Don't like apply for like 5 million variations of the same
Yeah.
job. No. Know the job you're looking for and apply for all the versions of that exact same job that exists.
Mm.
Now the resume should be one resume that highlights the skills that directly applies to that job. And highlighting it doesn't mean use the skills column, right? It means use every part of the write up should look like this person knows this thing. From the what did you do in internship? I
Yeah.
did this with this technology and this was the output and this. Just paint your resume to look like that. If you have a resume like that, that's good enough. Don't over optimize it.
Great.
Third thing, get in front of a recruiter. So at this point, most people apply directly on job websites. That works most times. But you could take it one step further. Every time you apply to a job,
Mhm.
figure out on LinkedIn, who do I know that is in this company? Is it a friend? Is it a friend of a friend? If that doesn't work, can I reach out to the recruiter? But
Mm.
try as much as possible to go through referrals. They're a lot more effective at
To the
getting your foot in the
door.
door. Finally, when you score that first phone call, your job is to razzle dazzle the person. Like make sure the person knows that you're very enthusiastic because I believe you are about the job. Make them know that you're very skilled and let them know that you're going to really put in the work.
Mm.
That's one. You also need to prove that you really care about the company.
Mm.
This is very important. No one's going to hire you, even if you're skilled, if you don't care about them.
The company, yeah.
You need to care about them. And if you don't care about them, don't apply to the company. Apply to only companies you care about. Once you fit all these three things, then the next thing is just technical interviewing. So it's write some code, talk to people, talk about the challenges you
After you
faced.
have sort of mastered,
It's not
not
mastery,
master,
but you
yeah,
just need
but
to be
just you know how
competent.
to do it. Yeah,
You just need to be
because
competent.
if you get through all of the three stages and then you get to the technical bit and you just mess it all up, you just
Oh, we usually start at technical though. They always like cut people
oh,
out of
okay, it's
technical.
technical. Okay, all right. Thank you for that very in-depth interview tutorial.
Thank you.
Because it looks like you've mastered the whole art, and that I'm sure that's because you've gone through a number of them. Because he has worked with. Tomiwa has worked. Tomiwa is, oh my god, Tomiwa is a boss. Please don't let me
I am not a boss.
my bragging. Please leave my bragging to me. My bragging. I've told you guys that I'll keep bragging about my friends because they are super beings and professionally, and yes, so Tamara, you have told us about interviewing. You have told us about your run us through your journey in your career. I know that you've told us where you're at, especially in your knowledge area, and how much you are contributing or how much effort you are putting into having more knowledge and more skills and just being really fast in this whole thing. So, what would you say is your career aspiration? Say in the next 5 years, because
That's a great question. Um, so in 5 years' time, I have the philosophy that everyone should go as high as they can go and go as far as they can go
Mhm.
to make sure to serve as a source of inspiration to other people so that they know it's possible. And for me, what that looks like is once the first thing would be to publish more on the topics that the industry is currently facing. So I want to do some things in like really powerful domains in the industry. That's one thing I want to do. So it's more like the academic version of the industry. So publish a few more papers. That's one thing I want to do. The second thing I want to do is move from like I'm going to transition from like individual contribution, which is what I currently do, into the non-individual contribution side of things. So that's probably one transition I'm going to make over the next 5 years. Uh, what else would be career-wise? I think this would be the two like top things. So publish more, transition to the non-individual thing. And the reason for that is so that I can multiply the kind of impact I can have. Because as an IC, I have a maximum amount of things I can do. But as a non-IC person, I'm able to leverage other people to expand on the kind of impact I can have.
Hmm. Someone that loves what he does.
I feel like if you're doing it for like 10 years, you need to love what you do, right? If I don't love it, I have to go and figure out what I'm going to love. But I
Oh.
like the career.
Okay, so what would you consider your career superpower?
Um, I've written, I know quite a lot of like programming languages that I've written quite a lot.
Mhm.
And I've worked with a lot of frameworks. I've worked with a lot of platforms, mobile, backend, cloud,
Mhm.
infra. I've done quite a lot. At this point, I think the fact that I can go into some domain that I have zero clue about
Mhm.
and gain expertise very quickly to the point where I perform at the same level as a senior version of that person of that career. I think that'll be like the strongest skill I think I've learned. I'll call it my career superpower is knowing how to learn.
Mm. Mm. Knowing how to learn.
Yeah. It doesn't look very powerful, but
So is it the ability to learn fast or knowing how to learn?
so not all information is useful.
Mm-hmm.
Some information is good, some information is even better. But knowing what exactly you need to know to
Mm.
be able to become productive at something, I will not be an expert at anything, but knowing what you need to know to be able to create high quality output that can start to generate impact is the how to learn component.
Mm.
So it's basically saying when you join a new company, they have a completely different tech stack from what you're used to. You need to figure out what are the things you need to know in that company that makes you become productive as quickly as possible without necessarily becoming an expert in their tech stack. Because becoming an expert takes a long time. And if you have to wait to become an expert before you do things, your career will be slow. And
What
guess
was
what?
that thing you said this evening about getting it done?
Oh, done is better than perfect.
Tomiwa says done is better than perfect. So I'm sticking to that. So Tomiwa, saying this now, it just takes me up to this question. What would you say to someone that is actually struggling, knows that, or is very much interested in the 90K dollars thing? Let's say that's a motivation,
Mhm.
and has decided, oh, you know what, I'm going to go into software development. Or it's not just entry. I know that you say, just know what to learn, right? But even what to learn, they know what to learn, but it's not just working out. So what is the advice that you give to them?
Okay, so I've also encountered a lot of like people who are trying to learn, and I've spoken to and helped a lot of people who are trying to
Mm,
learn engineering over their career. A few things I've seen. One, if you want to do something, fucking do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. If you want to do it but don't have the time to do it or the focus to do it, don't do it. So anybody, even a 40-year-old, actually 50-year-old, can actually become a competent software engineer if they dedicate themselves to it and they can do it. If a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old can do it and a 50-year-old can do it with the right amount of focus, you can do it. But you will not be able to do it if you cannot focus or spend time completely dedicated to this.
mm,
If you cannot dedicate, it's becoming like, because to become a software engineer, you have to learn a new type of thinking. It's not by reading the book, and you have to be doing it many times up to the point where your
practice.
brain creates the shortcuts or
Mm,
reprograms itself to think in a certain way, right? And to do that, it takes effort, practice, you doing things that you don't even know what you're doing. Just do it. You
mm,
failing many times, just do it. You waking up and doing it, just do it. You working with people, do it. You trying to figure out what's wrong in what you're doing, just do it. You talking to people and being very humble to say, hey, I don't know what's going on. Can you help me fix this small problem? Do it.
Just do it.
It's
You
going to
joining
take
a
time.
community.
You joining the community and showing up, do it.
Just do it.
Publishing and writing about what you're doing, do it. Finding a job, do it. But
Watching Young and Corporate series. Do
watching
it.
young and corporate series, definitely do that. But what you should not do is don't start with half energy, because if you start with half energy, it's as good as not. It's as good as just wasting that whole period, because you spend that same amount of time, 4 to 6 months, and then you come up without a skill that is employable. You could have just spent that time just drinking Gary and living your best life.
Why waste so much time trying to why waste half time trying to master something or trying to know something and then not knowing it at all? You could have just used the time for something
Something else.
fun.
Yeah. But if you're
Yeah.
down for it, if you really put your mind to it, you will get it.
Thank you, Tomiwa. Like I've learned a lot already myself, and especially from the interview bits because I'm not a software guy. But I know we have passively said they need to watch Young and Corporate
Yes, yes, yes.
series.
This one is very important.
Please come, my friend.
Please watch Young and Corporate Professionals series. Is it professional series?
No, Young and Corporate series.
Watch Young and Corporate series.
Yes.
Very, very important. If you don't watch anything today, just watch Young and Corporate series. Wake up in the morning, watch Young and Corporate series. It will be your ginger every day. Thank you.
True, true. So thank you so much, Dharma. High five. Tomiwa is my friend, so that you know. I've told you guys, I'm gonna be bringing my smart, my intelligent friends that have scaled through in their career in just a very short period of time. I really want to expose or to share their knowledge, their thought process, and everything that has inspired them to be what they are today. And I think that you can also be that person. You can also be that person. So you don't have to give up. You don't have to settle for less. I know Tomiwa studied computer science, but he had to do majority of the work by himself. And so join me in next episode. Like, comment, subscribe, and just
Hit
click
the
on
notification button.
yes, hit it. Thank you. Bye.
Au revoir.
Au
À
revoir.
bientôt.